if you look at how social media it works nowadays, is you've got people posting about their accomplishments, their work accomplishments, right? And their successes on LinkedIn, on Facebook feed, on Instagram, right? And so this line between business life and personal life is so blurred nowadays, right? It's like, it's everything is together. And so what that leads to is, more than ever, people want to see the people behind the business. They don't want to see an organization. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Art of E-commerce podcast. To my right, we've got Tony, the co-host. What's up?
Good to be back.
Good to be back for another one. And yeah, today we're talking about personal branding, which is essentially what we're doing right now. Obviously with a complete different goal than, say my YouTube, my Instagram. For us, podcast is kind of like a way to chill, relax, sit back and kind of talk and put it out to the world. But yeah, I'm excited for this because I think this personal branding thing is going to be massive. We'll talk about the future of it, why everyone should probably have a personal brand in some sort of way, and also how to go about it to make sure that that you do it the right way, right? At this point, to give you guys a bit of my experience with personal branding, I built a following of 600k on TikTok, around 50k on YouTube, and 160 plus k on Instagram. So I've definitely, and I've been at it for a few years at this point. So I've had things that have worked well. I've had things that haven't worked as well, and I've learned quite a lot. So I'm excited to share those lessons. I'm excited to dig into it with Tony, and let's go right into it.
100%. And I mean, just before we get started, also just to make the note, so we were both relatively inactive on Instagram, on these different social medias while growing up, right? Mm-hmm. And me right now, I've deleted my Instagram. I do see myself going back to it and having a personal brand in the future, but over the last at least almost 10 months at this point, I've been completely off. Mm-hmm. As I start my business, as I'm more into my master's as well, really, trying to cut out distractions from my life. So yeah, we're getting two people with two very different current standings in the space, but nonetheless, hopefully a lot of good insight to come.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good point to start with. The fact that we didn't really use Instagram at all, or any social media platform for that matter, for the longest time. I mean, I didn't even get Instagram until I was like 17, 18. I just had no use for it. And I feel like that's one of the points that we could touch on first is the fact that honestly, social media can be, you can use social media or you can have social media use you, right? And unfortunately, most people, it's the latter for them, right? Like they just let social media use them completely. They waste a bunch of time. And quite frankly, and this is a bit of a controversial thing to say, but quite frankly, if you're not using your social media to grow your business and really to impact people as well, like there's really no point in having social media. It really does you a really big disservice if you're just using it for pure entertainment. That there's not a huge benefit unless obviously you're consuming really solid content that helps you and helps you grow, right? But if you're like just following a bunch of friends and they're creating FOMO in you and comparison, which is just the toxic side of social media, where you should actually instead you should be actually focusing on your business and growing stuff, it's probably not a great idea.
If you're not paying for the product, you are the product, right? And that's the whole thing with these social media platforms. In the end of the day, they're optimized for you to spend the most time on it, for you to give the most attention you can, so that eventually they can just pop ads in and sell you stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then they make money from the marketers paying them to have their products on their websites. So, it is really understanding that and coming to terms with the fact that, as Jaime said, if you're not using these things positively for your own brand and for your own development and preaching your message or learning, you're being used by it, and there's no real third way to that.
Yeah, for sure. On the personal brand side of things, right? A lot of people may be listening to this and they're like, okay, then I need to build a personal brand. Well, not exactly. Right? There's a few paths that you have to be aware of, especially be aware of the different stages of the entrepreneurial journey. So I think that's what we can dig into, which is essentially the different journeys.
For sure. And I mean, before we do, can you just go through the purpose of why have a personal brand? Like, what's the point?
Yeah. The only purpose of having a personal brand is to, as I mentioned, right, to either grow your business or to impact people, right, in a way where you can add value to them. And obviously, you know, at the end of the day, we live in a capitalist society, right? So if you add value, you're gonna get value out of it, right? Whether it's financial, whether it's connections, whether it's all this stuff, right? So I think the main value in it is obviously to grow your business, but another value that I found incredibly useful is to connect with people that otherwise I wouldn't have had access to, right? I feel like having an audience, and it doesn't have to be a super huge audience, but it gives you leverage, right? When I started building an audience, and that's something I could give people value. I could tell people, hey, I've got this Facebook community, right? There's around 5K members on it, my free mastermind on Facebook. Let's, you know, why don't you hop on for an interview? Let's make sure that they hear your message and you can share all the stuff you've got going on, and you know, let's kick it, right? Or whether it's with my YouTube or whether it's with my TikTok audience, right? Connecting with the likes of, you know, Shopify, right? And partnering up with them, like they were in my DMs like a few days ago, right? Or like, you know, these really cool brands that I wouldn't have had the leverage to you know, speak to or work with or all that stuff, right? So it's understanding that when you have something of leverage, which is eyeballs, right? In this case, which is attention, then you can use that to connect with people that you really want to.
And you spoke about the different stages in the journey and its use for those different stages. But, you know, based on that and based on the fact that, you know, there are probably a lot of beginner entrepreneurs listening to this and you know, looking or thinking about having their own personal brand. Do you think this concept is for everyone?
It's not, right? Now, it's for people that are willing to put in the work, right? And it's also for people that are at a specific stage, right? Let me start with the work side of things. I feel like people underestimate the work that a personal brand actually takes, right? I mean, even just like a lot of people see an influencer or, you know, a coach or whatever, right? Post a story on Instagram. And you even told me the other day, like, oh shit, I didn't know like posting, you know, 4 stories, you know, a video story, right? I would be this much work. Like it was like a 10-15 minute thing, right? But that's not even that much compared to a YouTube video, right? Like you have to script the video. First of all, you have to understand the market, right? You have to know what the market actually wants, then script the video, right? Insert your own experience in there, like actually valuable stuff in there, right? So that people can find it of value. Then you have to sit down, you have to set the whole thing up, you have to click record, right? You have to record this video, which is, you know, a hassle in and of its own, especially when you're starting out, where you're not really used to speaking to the camera. You have to then edit the video. In my case, I have an editor that edits the videos, but most people edit them, you know, their videos when they're starting out. Then you have to like get crystal clear on the thumbnail, the SEO, like post it on the, you know, on your YouTube, then ideally do a bunch of marketing for it, right? So that people watch it. And so it's a whole process, right? And you know, I'm doing that 4 or 5 times a week at this point. And so people don't, or even this podcast, right? Like, you know, definitely it's more chill because it doesn't have to have as much editing done to it, but like setting the whole thing up, you know, the investment of the, you know, the whole setup, and it's not easy, right? And again, one of the things about personal branding is like, you don't have to start here, right? You can start with your phone, but even then it's an energy investment. And so the reason why I say that is because yes, you got to be up for the work. You have to be consistent with it. But then speaking about the different phases, right? You have to be at a point with your business or a point in your life where you're good already, right? And what I mean by that is you should be at a point with your business where you already have had results and success, right? So that financially you're stable, you've gotten that thing sorted, you've got that thing out of the way, right? 2, so that you actually know, so that you can actually add value to your audience. There's so many people that start their personal brand and they just have nothing to say. They're either rejuvenating stuff that has already been said, so it doesn't cut through the noise, right? Or just quite simply, you know, if they do say something, it's just completely wrong. And so maybe they get a bunch of views, but the impact that they're having is just negative, right? And so, you know, that's the main thing, right? Like people starting personal brands where they haven't actually gotten the money out of the way, they haven't had success with their business just yet, right? And two, since they haven't had success with their business and they're talking about this business model, they don't really have knowledge that's going to cut through the noise, because it's not, it doesn't actually come from personal experience, right? And so that personal brand is really going to struggle to grow.
So basically just being at a point where you actually have value to add.
Exactly.
So that, you're not just doing these things. And again, remembering that if you're not adding value and you're not creating content and you're not adding something to other people, in the end of the day, you're just kind of wasting your time on there.
Yeah, correct. That's really the main thing. And I feel like a lot of people underestimate just how important it is to have good knowledge and to be saying good shit. If you actually want to grow fast. Like, one of the reasons why I think I grew fast on YouTube and on other platforms is because I'd been through the trenches, right? And so and the reason why I'm speaking about this is because I made the mistake at the start of trying to document my journey, right? And I made a bunch of videos where, like, quite frankly, I hadn't made it, right? Like, and I'm not saying I made it now, right? But I hadn't had results with my business, or the type of results that I should have had, right? To have that peace of mind where I could now invest into creating better quality content, right? And so I wasted all this time in creating, not great content, right? And then since I was putting that time into the personal brand, where I could have put it on my business suffered a little bit, right? And so that's what I want people to be aware of, the fact that this concept of documenting the journey is just wrong, quite frankly. It doesn't add as much value as people think, right? People want, you can start vlogging and you can start documenting their journey once you've had the how-to videos and once people have garnered value from you. And I'm talking about the personal development and business space, where it's more like, people want strategies and all that stuff. Obviously, if you're a vlogger on YouTube, this doesn't apply as much, but understanding that it's a complete different game. And so if you want to document the journey, just go ahead, shoot one video of your first day. Hey guys, this is my plan, right? This is what I'm planning on doing, right? Here's how I'm going to do that, right? And then put the camera down and get to work, right? Put your head down, get to work, right? And then 12 months, 18 months, maybe even 6 months, put your head back up, right? And now you can, once you've gotten results with your business, once you've gotten results with what you've done, now you can start sharing those lessons and documenting.
What about for the use of actual social media within business? So, for example, you've spoken about how Shopify reached out to you the other day, but like, at what point, if ever, do you feel like it's actually useful to use these platforms like Instagram, like TikTok, to be reaching out to businesses to offer your services, or the like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm a big advocate for it. Even in my mentorship, like, one of the sales funnels is having a profile funnel on social media, right? Now, I see that a bit different to having a personal brand, because I feel like, when you say personal brand, people have like this misconception where you have to have a lot of followers and you have to be this Gary V type of guy, right? And so that for me is like, it's directly correlated to growing the business, which is one of the things that I mentioned earlier on, which is like, you have to be focused on the priority, which is growing the business. And so social media, for example, if you're growing an e-com agency, a service-based business, is an amazing opportunity to get clients, right? Especially Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Okay, so being on those platforms and reaching out to prospects and then cultivating those relationships by posting content on your feed is an amazing way of getting new clients, right? Because you're showing that you're not a fly-by-night opportunist, right? And you actually know what you're talking about. Makes sense? But that type of content is very specific for that group of people. And that's why, a lot of my mentees, for example, and I say this all the time, they're able to, quote unquote, be more successful, or at least grow their business and make more money than all of these personal brands that are just posting content, because their content is very specific, is very tailored, right? So they're reaching out to prospects, right? So they already are reaching out to them, like specifically to those people, right? And then they're posting content about their specific sub niche on their feed, so that these prospects can see that, so that they cultivate that relationship, right? And so maybe they get like 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 likes on those posts, but the right people are seeing those posts, right? The type of people that they want being their customers and clients, right? And so when you have that type of content, when you have that type of approach, you don't need massive scale. You don't need like thousands of likes to make a decent amount of money, like most influencers. You just need to get in front of the right person, which, look, if you're only adding prospects as friends, right? If you're only messaging prospects, right? You might have 100 people on your as friends, but 100 of those people or 90 of those people are prospects that you could work with, right? And so that type of content is so much more powerful.
And I mean, that kind of leads on to one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and that really, like, for me at least, this year really changed the way I viewed things. And I mean that in a very big way. And it's this concept that you introduced in terms of like the B2P, right? So business to people kind of relationships, and how business is changing to look more like that. Do you want to expand a bit on that?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it's an important concept that if you kind of download it, right, and you understand it, it literally, you can understand how the future of business is really going to look like, right? And we implement this for not only when reaching out to prospects and how we do ourselves for the agency, but also when we are getting results for our e-com brands, our clients, and also for our own e-com brands. How we do the marketing, right? So basically the how it goes is, it used to be business to business, right, or business to customers, but in most cases business to business. So if you think of our parents back in the day, right, like the way people would kind of go about life is they would go to their work, right, and from Monday to Friday they were at their they were in work mode, right, and then weekend rolls around and all they're doing is they're doing like personal life, right? So they want to disconnect from work. But if you look at how social media it works nowadays, is you've got people posting about their accomplishments, their work accomplishments, right, and their successes on LinkedIn, on Facebook feed, on Instagram, right? And so this line between business life and personal life is so blurred nowadays, right? It's like it's everything is together. And so what that leads to is, more than ever, people want to see the people behind the business. They don't want to see an organization, right? They don't want to see, Coca-Cola, right? They want to see the founder of Coca-Cola maybe running the ads and talking about the brand's vision, right, and mission. And obviously that is a bad example, because Coca-Cola is this immense company, right? But taking it to a much better example, like an e-commerce brand, right, that some guy is starting. What's going to be much more impactful is if you make that e-commerce brand about the team or about the founder, or if the ads, right, are all about, you've got people featuring them. It's not just about a product. The product is important, right? But people want to see the people behind the business, right? What do these people care about? What is their mission? What are their values? And more than ever, people are interested on the human side of things, right? And you want to humanize all the interactions you've got on social media. Even when it comes to like running ads for companies on social media, what we try to do is we try to humanize that component as much as possible. So I'm not saying we only run ads that feature the founder or the team, but at least we'll have one angle where it's all about the founder's story, right? Mm-hmm. And on those creatives, you've got the founder maybe talking about the product, right? Or the founder really cool storyline of like the founder creating the brand and what they set out to achieve and all that stuff, right? And so that's much more powerful. And so what I mean by the B2B is the fact that all businesses are going to people, right? Like and people want to see people behind the businesses, and that's really a powerful concept.
It really takes out this image of these businesses being these large corporations, right? And it really personifies them as this one person. I think what you were mentioning in terms of the founder, but not only that, but also in terms of like being able to use actual humans within the ad creatives, being able to show people using these products, these it gives the human face to the products and to the business itself, right?
Especially because on social media, people don't go, don't log in there to see products. Like they don't log in there to see like product images. They log in there to see their friends, their family, pets, like all this stuff, right? Pages that they follow, but usually it involves a human element, right? And so when you hit them with, hey, buy this product, and here are the benefits of this product, like, sure, that can be impactful as maybe retargeting ads or at some point in the funnel. But when you've got literally a second to grab their attention and hook them in, that's not going to be as impactful as seeing someone that they maybe think, oh, like, why do I follow this person? Like, is this one of my friends? And so it's disguised as something that would look like something a friend would post, right? And if they, since it's disguised, that second you've grabbed them, you've hooked them in, and now they can maybe read the first line of the ad copy. Maybe the first line hooks them in into reading the second line and then the third line, and now you've actually hooked them in, and maybe you can get them on the landing page. And then once they're on the landing page, they can either buy or you can, they can hop off, but you can retarget them across everywhere, right? To get that sale. So yeah, it's all about humanizing that component, because we almost disguise it as something that looks like a friend of theirs would post, right? And they're like, oh, this doesn't look like an ad, right? They don't even realize it's sponsored until they're far down the ad copy, and they're like, okay, this is definitely not my friend. But I like them.
So, going back to the topic of personal brands, and especially your own experiences there, once you do manage to get a following that's large enough, there is also the opportunity for like influencer marketing, right? And being able to partner with these kinds of or with different kinds of brands to show their products and promote them there. What are your thoughts on that? Like, have you worked with any before? Do you look to in the future? Like, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the chance to work with really cool brands. I mean, the likes of Shopify, Oberlo, like Founder Magazine, Blue Social, and Headway app. I mean, a bunch of really cool brands, right? And yeah, it's been an incredible experience. The way I see it, just because this is kind of like the business owner in me, is like, I don't just want to do one video for them or like 3 videos, right? Like I want to be part of the, if I believe in the project, I want to be part of the project, right? I want to have a percentage of ad profit if we run their ads, right? I want to have them as a client. Like that's how my brain is wired. And so, and I would, it would be amazing if a lot of influencers thought like that, right? Instead of like having 90% of their income come from influencer partnerships, like starting their own brands and, or either starting an agency. And so having ownership of stuff, I think that's really important, because otherwise, if you're an influencer, it can be a pretty crude awakening to realize that like you're really not in control of business. Like you have absolutely no control, because you cannot expect how many brands are going to reach out to you that month. What if everything, what if your views go down and everything just dries up? Like you don't have ownership of anything, right? So that's where my brain and my mind goes to. And so the way I treat influencer marketing is, specifically for me, though, is a decent income opportunity. I don't really pay that much attention to it. The main thing for me is like partnering up with these brands and, maybe talking about how we can partner up in the future in bigger projects and really help them grow their businesses, right? But instead of having it so one-dimensional, like, hey, let's create a bunch of videos on your TikTok and let's put them up, let's actually graduate that into something bigger, right? So let's do the videos, right? But maybe let's have a conversation after they've seen the results and after they've seen the performance. Let's have a conversation on how we can graduate that. So that's kind of what I do, and it works really well, because I only pick the brands that I truly believe in. And if I pick the brands that I truly believe in, then those are the brands that I would want to work with anyways, right? So that's kind of how I treat influencer marketing myself.
I mean, on that topic as well, because that's when brands are coming to you and asking to post some kind of content, right? But do you find that when you're reaching out to brands with your agency specifically, right, and you're offering your services, do you think it helps to have the personal brand behind you, to have that kind of social proof and the fact that you're showing results that you've gotten people?
Not really. I mean, I think like brands don't hire me because how many followers I've got. I'm talking about specifically for my agency. Obviously, if they come to me and they tell me, hey, I want to feature a video in your TikTok, yeah, 100%. They come to me because they want to have those eyeballs on their product, and they also like my style of videos and my message. But for the agency, not really. Like what speaks way louder than the amount of followers you've got is, what does your offer look like? How's your team, right? Are the A players, right? And your ability to get results. So whether you're starting out and you don't have that much social proof, so maybe you're letting the process to results speak for themselves, for itself. Or if you do have those clients, just talking about the track record you've got and some of the results you've got for past clients, but they're not really impressed by it. I think most, in fact, maybe it could be, because they can see like, maybe it could be a disadvantage sometimes, right? If you don't have like a super niche a personal brand, because maybe they follow you on Instagram and they see you like, I don't know, going on holiday, which is completely fine, but they're like, oh, why isn't it working on my ads? I've got an amazing team behind me, right? But my point is, no, not really. Like at the end of the day, what people care about is results, and that's why the agency has success, right? Because we can just tell them like, hey, here's how we do things, and here are the results that you can expect to see.
That's a really interesting one. And you touched on the fact that like sometimes brands reach out to you for your specific style, right? And the things you do in your videos and the eyeballs you have, right? How would you say someone can actually find their style, right? So like you're trying to start a personal brand, be it TikTok, be it on Instagram, be it even on YouTube, and you're looking for like what's gonna make me stand out, what's unique to me. How would you say someone goes about kind of tapping into that creative side of their uniqueness?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because a few days ago we were talking about, plagiarizing and copying, which is rampant nowadays, especially on TikTok. It's just disgusting, right? And I don't get too butthurt about it because I've already gotten butthurt about it back in the day, and I'm just, I've transcended it at this point. But the amount of copying, like literally, the amount of people that have copied not only the ideas of the videos, but literally like my mannerisms. Like I'll be drinking out of a glass, right? And I'll be like smiling at the camera in this sort of way, and people will literally copy the exact same smile, like the exact same cop. Like it's crazy, right? What's out there. And I was saying this to you, like, these people are sacrificing short-term gains, which I'm sure they're gonna get, these eyeballs on by copying sometimes, right? But they're sacrificing massive long-term gains, right? So if they don't get their ass handed to them in the short term, which a lot of people do, quite frankly, like even if you do copy, like it's probably not going to perform as well as the original video. But even if it does, like in the short term, in the long term, you are absolutely screwed, right? Because you're not taking that time to really find yourself and truly find your way of doing things. And the influencers that you see thrive are the influencers that can reinvent themselves and can find their creativity and their, or how original they are, right? And so when you don't find that, it's really tough to have longevity. So to your question on how to find your way and your way of doing things, and like how to be original, like it comes down to testing a lot, right? Like you have to be consistent. You have to post a lot of content to see what works, what doesn't, right? To see what your audience resonates with. And then once you found that, then do more of what works. And then also ask yourself, does this type of content make me happy, right? Am I excited to create this type of content? Because that's also going to determine whether you have longevity with it or not, right? A lot of influencers get caught up, and me included in the past, where you see, you maybe you get one video that just explodes, right? But maybe it wasn't the video that you thought would explode, but now you're seeing all the views and you're like, oh, I should replicate this, right? And then again, it performs well. And then you replicate it again and it does well again, right? But then you realize, like maybe a few weeks later, that this type of content is not really like your essence, right? It's not really what you like, and you don't see yourself doing that for the long term. But you can get caught up by maintaining this kind of like persona and this type of this way of creating content for a long time, and you just get absolutely burned out, right? And so that's another thing to watch out for. But I think the main thing is you just have to test a lot of stuff. And also stick with one platform first. Like if you haven't mastered one platform, do not move on to the next. Like, start with, I don't know, TikTok, right? And then master that. And then once you've got people there, maybe you can drive some of those people to a different platform, or start with Instagram, whatever platform it is. Start with one, master that platform, right? And then start driving those people to a different platform that now you're on to conquer as well.
That's a big point. We actually spoke about it the other day as well, in terms of picking one platform and doubling down on it. Would you say that there is an easier platform to start with, or one to find your niche? And based on that as well, how would you actually go about, like if you were back to zero, right? Like no one knows your name again. You know your style, but it's not like well known out there. How would you start again, and where would you start, and how would you go about it?
I think the first thing is identifying what are the land grabs of attention right now. What are some of the corners of social media that are being rewarded heavily. There's much more upside than downside, right? So for example, when I started, no one was really using TikTok, especially for business. And when I told people, I didn't really tell many, right? But when I told people I was creating content on TikTok, they would like laugh at me and told me, this was for like an app that only 16-year-old girls were using. I was like, dude, that's fucking great. Like, I'm so pumped that people have that perception of this platform, because I'm gonna get a land grab on this platform, right? And then everyone is gonna be jumping on this platform. And I even told my sister this. I was like, look, you can be embarrassed or ashamed as much as you want, right? But your friends in 6 months, they're all gonna be on TikTok. You just watch, right? And it so happened that that was the case, right? And that kind of it really helped me build my audience. Not saying it was easier, but it was definitely, TikTok did boost more accounts way more when back then, right? Because when a platform is starting out, they want to reward those creators with views, and they want to basically like bribe them into creating content, right? In a way. So it's about at Fossey, if you literally have 0 followers, identify what are the land grabs of attention, right? And also what comes easy to you. Like, if your thing is not being on video, then even if TikTok is like the platform to tap into, don't go on TikTok, right? Because you're probably not going to crack it, or you're probably shortcutting yourself. Like, you want to double down on your strengths, right? But for example, maybe now, right? Like, Snapchat TV is a good opportunity. I'm not too sure, right? Those are just examples, right? Or maybe, I don't know, like, Instagram Reels, like a few months ago, was crazy, right? And that's what helped me like really grow on Instagram. So it's identifying these land grabs of attention at first to have exponential growth. And then once you've done that, then for me, YouTube will always be the go-to. Like, YouTube is the GOAT, really. Like, if you build a personal brand on YouTube, like, damn, like, you really know what you're doing, because YouTube, as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, like most people are not up for it because it takes so much work, right? Most people are not consistent with it, and then most people cannot crack the YouTube algorithm. So it's kind of like first finding a land grab of attention, right? Once you've done that and you've built yourself up in one of these platforms where you've got a land grab of attention, which is definitely never going to be on YouTube, because YouTube is not that type of platform, then you can start migrating this attention to YouTube, and then really being consistent with YouTube. And that's the thing about me, like, and with my editor, like, we worked on this, like, we've been at it for like 2 years, right? And so I was getting a lot of traction on TikTok, and not much on YouTube, but we just kept chipping away at YouTube. And YouTube actually took way more time than TikTok, right? And TikTok was like 500k, 400k followers, and we had like maybe 2k on YouTube, but we were like chipping away at it every single week, like posting consistently 2 to 3 to 4 videos, right? Getting like 200 views per video, and it was miserable, right? But we knew that the eyes would, eventually crack. And I'm not saying I've cracked the ice just yet, but we're starting to see signs of the ice slowly cracking.
Yeah, no, I think, as you said, YouTube really is and we were speaking about this the other day, right? It's the almost the father of all platforms, and the one who's really still sticking around. And like you mentioned just now, having that platform, having that following, that brand on YouTube, really does translate to everything else, and it really does speak about you as a personal brand, and you as an influencer as well.
Yeah, it's we're also talking about this, right? One of the things I did not mention, right, is the fact that once you've found your land grab, once you've mastered that platform, and once you've once you've mastered that platform, it's really important to diversify, right? So like going on to a different platform to conquer is not like oh, maybe I'll do it, it's like you absolutely have to, like, for example, we had this WhatsApp group with like some of the top people in the TikTok space, in the business in TikTok in the business space, and news broke out of the US maybe banning TikTok, and they all lost, most of them lost their minds, right? Because they literally play all their cards to this one single platform. Like they bet everything on black, right? And so as much as it is important to have a laser focus on one single platform when you're starting to build your brand, once you've mastered that platform, and once you're starting, once you're getting traction with that platform, do not just get comfortable, right? Because comfort is going to kill you, right? And so even if it's a bit of a pain, right, and you don't understand why you're doing this, when you have like this platform that you're still consistent in, giving you so many views and so much stuff, right? Like it really does pay dividends, because if one platform was to go away completely, at least we're diversified across different platforms.
Yeah, as you said, never betting all on black.
Yeah.
Right? Spreading your chips. But yeah, no, just to wrap up then, in terms of where you're at with your personal brand and where you see it going in the future, any projections, any reveals behind the curtains for what's to come?
I mean, honestly, I take nowadays, especially with my personal brand, I take it day by day almost, because it's really hard to predict what type of things will go viral, what type of things will work. And so honestly, when like personal brand, I think that it has so much creativity to it, and I feel like anything that has a lot of creativity to it, you just cannot really predict very well, because sometimes it's like you have this lucid moments where you think of an idea and then it just clicks, right? And then all of a sudden, like, you gain way more followers than you expected, or the personal brand just goes viral, right? And so I think my personal brand is just understanding that it's kind of like it's on the sideline. Like, the main thing is the businesses for me. I love creating content, and that's why I do it. And I love, like, hearing people's comments and ideally helping people. I love that side of things. But with the personal brand, I take it step by step. Just I focus on the work, being consistent every single day, looking at what's coming back, looking at the data, like analyzing kind of the market and seeing what the market is resonating with, where we're moving, etc., etc. And then slowly, maybe like every 3 months, I'll introduce a new thing, right, to the arsenal. Like, for example, this podcast, right? Like, we'll focus on the podcast. We'll see how it does. We'll see if people resonate with it, right? And hopefully it becomes like a core pillar in the personal brand. And maybe in 3 months, like, I'll look into some other platform or some other like type of way of building the audience. But for me, it's really important, especially nowadays, because I have all these businesses, right? All the my team members to take care of, like, that being the my clients, customers, that being the priority. What I need to make sure is I build systems around every single platform, right? So I can either delegate it or automate it or just completely eliminate it, some things that I don't need, right? So, for example, with this podcast, like, probably now, like, we don't have much of a system. Like, it's not as like smooth or as frictionless, right? But as we go and as we get the groove with it, right? Then the system will become more frictionless and tighter, and that will allow me to remove myself from like the editing and all that stuff, right? But at first, like, that's how I see every single platform, right? And so, like, you can really build a cool system that allows you to then focus your attention on something else. Like, it's really important to hone in on it.
I mean, very important point there at the end, just before we go, but like this importance of knowing and being able to structure your own things before you go on to delegate. So that you know exactly what it is that you want, and you refine your own systems before you can train someone else to do the same for you.
100%. And like, have a bit of an SOP, around it. Like, okay, these episodes get recorded on this day, and I need this, and so that when I sit down, like, everything is ready, and so that you waste way less time, and it allows you to do more stuff. And so that a lot of people ask me, like, how do you have time for all this, like the business and the e-com brand, the agency, the mentorship, the creating content, all that stuff. It's just a matter of, like, you do one thing, then you build a system around it, you systemize it, you start scaling it, you move on to the next thing. Then that thing you scaled probably has a bunch of chaos that you need to deal with. You restructure it again, you create a better system, and then you move on to the next thing, right? And the next thing and the next thing, and you just, like, keep on piling things that just kind of, like, they work almost like a well-oiled machine, right? And that allows you to essentially take on more, but at the same time not add way more complexity to your life.
And I think that's a great place to end it.
No, we got deep with this podcast, like, quite actionable, hopefully. But yeah, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button and make sure to subscribe for more videos. Also, if you're listening in on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure to leave us a review, ideally a positive one, and make sure to subscribe for more episodes. And with that being said, Tony, thank you. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.